Welcome to Slippery Rock Sports Forum. I'm Madeline Williams, and alongside me tonight are Tim Durr, Zac Smith, and Bill Kostkas. Let's get things started with the Masters that finished up yesterday, with the big storylines being Charles Schwartzel coming out of nowhere to get the victory, and Tiger Woods playing a solid final round to finish 3 strokes behind the champ. Tim, what are your thoughts on this year's Masters?
Well, it was a really interesting event to watch. I watched all the final round yesterday. I watched Tiger Woods, just great play coming back. He pulled within, 1 stroke. He was 10 under. He was 1 stroke back of the leader when he finished. I thought, maybe there's a chance that one of these guys slip up and fall back and we have a playoff or something like that. But then Charles Schwartzel came out of nowhere. I think when Tiger finished, he was on like 14, and he's played solid after that. I think he was on 14, 9 under, and then he just kept getting birdies, kept playing very well. And next thing you know, he's sinking. He has a 2-putt to win it on the 18th hole. He sinks it on the first shot, and he's your champion at 13 under. So he just played fantastic. 4 under. That's one of the best in a while since Jack Nicklaus, who did it back in I think like '67, finishing 4 under on the last 4 holes. So I mean, this guy came out of nowhere. Nobody really knows who he is. We're probably not going to hear too much about him in the future. I think he's like a 26-year-old that worked his way up through Australia and played in Spain or something like that. And then now he's over here on the tour. And I mean, everybody was really, a bunch of nobodies went up there. Jason Day was in his first appearance ever, and he finished in second place. So it was just a little bit of everybody. I really thought Tiger had a great chance there, and I think that 3rd round's what really killed him. If he would have played a little bit better that 3rd round, shot even par, he would have been right up there with a chance to win it.
Taking nothing away from Schwartzel, I really think that the 2 main storylines here, as you said, obviously Tiger. Tiger's always, every time he's on a golf course, he's going to be the main story. McIlroy disappearing was something that really surprised me. I mean, I didn't actually watch it, but I saw, some of it on ESPN, and the way that Lefty finished, he killed Houston. He shot 20 under, and I don't even know where he placed. So I'm just really surprised. I thought Schwartzel played amazing, and it's great, but as you said, I don't see too much coming from this. I don't know if we're going to see too much of him in the future.
Who the hell is Charles Schwartzel? And that was my thought process around 3, 4 o'clock yesterday. Seems like every time you watch a major now, your big boys are up front for most of the weekend, and they blow up, and someone comes and steals the spotlight. It's exactly what happened this time. But one thing for sure, other than Schwartzel winning, big deal, who cares? Golf was resurrected from the dead yesterday when Tiger hit the birdie on, I think, the 12th hole. Fist pump came back. He was wearing red. The crowd was going nuts. You heard it on the nearest 3 or 4 holes. The crowd reaction, that is. And Rory coming in with a Rory McIlroy, yeah.
Yeah, Rory McIlroy.
I'm thinking Rory Sabatini, the dude who stormed off a couple years ago. Royal needed to clean up the spittle real fast with Tiger coming. He didn't do it. Came with a 4-shot lead, shot an 80 on Sunday. How does that happen? And he just blew chunks.
Yeah, he played absolutely horrible. He was right there, with a great chance to win it, and then he just fell apart on Sunday. And like Bill said, the game of golf, I think it's really close to being back, with Tiger being back to his full game, and that's what everybody wants to see. They want to see Tiger breaking all the records, winning the most majors, and I mean that's what golf fans these days want to see. I think finally it's behind us. People aren't worried about, oh, Tiger did all that and everything. Some people still talk about it, but for the most part, I think people are just want to see Tiger get back to his form, because that's the most exciting golf to watch. If Tiger wouldn't have had that big comeback yesterday, I think a lot of people would have turned turned the Masters off before it got to the really interesting parts. Because say Tiger finished his 5 under, he shoots even par yesterday. Okay, he finished. I'm going to turn it off because I don't even care who wins. But he was still there until the final 2 rounds were finished, or the final 2 pairings were finishing. He was right there in contention until until Jason Day and Schwartzel came in and finished. He was right there in contention, and everybody was still glued to the TV set.
Sorry. Okay, well, I'm just saying, what to further elaborate what you were saying about as far as these nobodies. I mean, they're really not expected to win, so they're out there. They're just playing carefree, fun golf, So, just like, it doesn't really surprise me that these nobodies are creeping up around the top.
I wanted to get something. If it's possible, check the CBS numbers. When Tiger started charging, I'm sure that's when everybody tuned in.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Okay, first round, Tim, you came out on top. You had 5, Bill, you had 4, and Zach, you had 3. The Miami Heat showed potential on Sunday against the Boston Celtics, and the Heat dominated most of the game and won 100-77. Zach, are these the Miami Heat that we've been waiting to see all year? And what about Boston's struggle down the stretch?
I think it's the Miami Heat that the media has been waiting to see, not necessarily, Miami fans have been waiting for it because that's what
It's the Heat I've wanted to see for a while.
Yeah, it's the Heat, the fans have wanted to see, but, it took them long enough, but I think they're on a roll now, and Boston's a legitimate contender in the East. So this is great for them, their fan base. It's great for basketball, too, because people are going to tune in to watch and see if they're going to be able to run through the playoffs like everyone expects. And if they get to the finals, I think that it's going to be the most, highly viewed NBA finals in a while because just of the 3 marquee names, and I'm sure Kobe from the West will be out there. So
if it's them Lakers, it's game over.
Yeah.
Everybody's watching that. That's going to be the biggest thing out there. I personally watched the game. I tuned in a little bit before halftime, and the score was, I think, about 5-6 points, and then the Heat just started pulling away in that second half. And just fantastic. They dominated the Heat they dominated the Celtics in the first half, held them to only 40 points, and I think the Celtics only had 10 rebounds, which is their lowest since like 1992 or something like that. The Miami Heat played basketball, the game of basketball that we're all taught when we're growing up and and playing our recreation leagues. Play defense, get rebounds. The Heat were doing that yesterday, along with their theatrics of Dwayne Wade throwing a full court pass to LeBron for an alley-oop. Along with all of that, they have all those skills. When they play the defense, they get on the boards, they do what they need to do. They're unstoppable. They're the best team in the league, as they should be when you have 3 of the probably top 5 players in the league. But the thing about the Celtics now, though, is you have to take this with a little bit of hesitation of how good the Heat really are, because the Celtics without Kendrick Perkins, they're not even close to as good as they were before. With Kendrick Perkins gone, they can't rebound. They have nobody inside to rebound. They don't have an actual center now, so they're just running around with nobody inside to rebound. So if they're not making 65% of their shots, they're not really being competitive because they're getting out rebounded by 10, 12 rebounds a game.
Well, first of all, I think if you switched off the Masters to watch the circuses in the NBA yesterday, I think you have to be checked for whether or not you're brain dead. But
oh God.
I think we have to call back to 2 past shows from at least a month ago. At the beginning, before the NBA regular season started, we said, I think it was just me and Zach that agreed upon saying that it would take a while for the Heat to develop their chemistry. Yep. Maybe it's finally coming around now after all those times of bricks at the buzzer,
5-game losing streaks,
and crying in the locker room, and they couldn't hit a game-winning shot for their lives. Maybe it's just finally coming together for them. We said it would take time, and it has. Another thing is Tim elaborated on, and I said this about a month ago. That team is not the Celtics. That team is not the same without Kendrick Perkins in the lineup, and you're seeing the results of it.
Well, I want to touch on your point real quick about the missed shots and the tears and all that stuff. That build character in that team. That's why they're going to win, and that's why they're going to win the championship. They're going to go to the finals and win it this year. Because those struggles, if they would have won 70-some games and just been coasting right through, they would have fell apart in the championship. But because they had the trials and tribulations through this NBA season,
that takes years. Though that doesn't take months. That takes years.
But they got it. They're the best. They have the best players in the league on this team. Mike Bibby stepped up and had a big game on Sunday for them. And when you got 4 guys who are stepping up playing well, their bench is coming in for them. They played a solid game. It wasn't I think the big 3 only had like 54 points. It wasn't, the big 3 score 95 and then Mike Bibby hits 2 threes and that's all, all the contributions that they get. They had 54 points and they played a solid game.
Well, I mean, you look at it, it's one game, but it's something you can definitely build off of in terms of confidence going forward into the playoffs. Surely, I believe they're second right now in the East, correct?
Yeah, that win gave them second.
Yeah,
they have 2 more.
So that's huge, and now and we're in the latter part of the season. So this is definitely a confidence builder for them going into the playoffs. Whether that they believed in themselves or not, obviously they did. But this is just huge for them being able to blow out a marquee team in the East.
Yeah. A real quick point: they still have 2 games left. They have to win both those games because if the Celtics win their final games and the Heat lose the game, the Celtics would jump back into the number 2 spot, and that game would pretty much be for naught.
Okay, our third topic of the night is Slippery Rock women's lacrosse. The ladies won their 8th game of the season, which is a modern era record. Also, Amy Halls became the first women lacrosse player in SRU history to score more than 150 goals in her career. Bill, what do these accomplishments mean for the program?
Based on the past history of the program, that's a lot. I mean, even if you don't follow lacrosse, you know one thing about it, Amy Halls, who tears up consistently every week. I mean, hitting 150 goals, that's big for the program. And I think it was eight conference wins?
Yeah.
No, 8 total wins.
Right, 8 total.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they just won the second or third conference game a while ago. But, again, as much as they've lost in the past, that's huge for them. So, especially they had a coaching change.
Yeah.
I don't really remember. But a good comparison for them is the women's basketball team. New coaches coming in. I mean, you got to develop the base of your program, the foundation. You got to build going up from there. It takes time. Obviously, they're not contending for a conference title. I think they're still in third place, but they're on the right track.
I think they're definitely in a solid position. I mean, they have Amy Halls, who just got 150 goals. Casey Quinn just joined her as one of 4 total Rock players in history of women's lacrosse to have over 100 goals for a career. So they have a lot of people contributing on this team right now. They're playing very good. Their 4 losses all came to teams that were ranked in the top 8 nationally. You know, the number 2 ranked teams, 6, 7, and 8. So you have these top 8 ranked teams that you're playing. That's your only 4 losses that you have. Other than that, they've been winning handily. I mean, they've been beating teams 20-9, 21-15. They've been winning by 6, 7 goals more than that. So they're just playing very solid. I think these are 2 great accomplishments and something to build on. They still have, Amy Halls will be a senior next year. Casey Quinn will also be a senior. So they have a lot of people who are going to be coming back next year. I think if they finish this year strong, get into the playoffs, maybe win a game, something like that, they're going to be in a very good situation and they have to feel good about themselves and what they've accomplished.
I think you can credit their success to the freshman goalie, Kat Elkins. I actually announced for them, and she's been great for them in the games that they've won and that they've lost. Some of them have been not lapses on her part so much as on the offensive end.
Yeah.
But definitely Halls is the headliner. Anytime you talk about lacrosse, it's definitely Amy Halls. But Kat Elkins deserves like an honorable mention. But a fact here, I'm not going to take anything away from their 8-win season, but I believe it was before the program was reinstated, they only played 11 games. So the most they went was 8-3. Not taking anything away from them because they're obviously going to exceed 8 wins this year. They have a couple like cupcake teams that they're playing against here in the next few weeks. But that's just a point. They've only played 11 games before, but they're setting records, and it's great for them right now.
And by modern era, it's just since they've been reinstated in 2007. So it's just the past 4 seasons that they've been able to do that. But still an accomplishment for a team just being reinstated 4 years ago.
Yeah,
being reinstated 4 years ago.
Other than the 2 things we mentioned, a big thing for them was just name notoriety. It's not just, as I said earlier, it's not just Amy Hall. As Tim said, there's Casey Quinn, there's Olivia Lampenfeld, and Alexis Slutsky. I mean, just name notoriety, getting your name out there, that's bigger for them than someone scoring so many goals or having a certain total of wins. Just name recognition. Yeah,
whenever people are prepared, in the past years they were just that team, okay, they were just reinstated, this is an easy win for us. That's what other teams would think. Now people have to be prepared to play this team, and they have to come into the game thinking, okay, this is a worthy opponent, this is a quality opponent who has scores, who has a good goalie, who has the ability to play solid defense. So they have to be prepared for all of that when they're coming to play them, and they're contenders now, as you can see by their 8-4 record and how they played so well against these lower teams and these average teams. They're not quite there yet with the top-ranked teams, but I mean, after being reinstated 4 years ago, you're not expected to beat the number 2 team in the country.
Well, like you said, a lot of its contributions away from Halls.
Yeah.
As I said about Elkins, great young goalie. She's only a freshman, so that's 4 years of solid goalkeeping that you're going to have on your side. And I believe in lacrosse, it's imperative to build off that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a matter of being able to keep the ball, the opponent from scoring and letting Halls and, as you said, the other people contribute that aren't necessarily Amy Halls.
Take a lot of pressure off.
Yes, exactly.
I've watched him a few times. Amy gets the snot out of
her. Yeah, triple, double teamed.
So.
Yeah, and she, if Slutsky and all them step in, then it's just great for them.
All right, that ends the 3rd round. Tim, you're in the lead. You have 13. Zach, you have 10, and Bill, you have 9. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Welcome back to Slippery Rock Sports Forum. Once again, I'm Madeline Williams. The NHL playoff field has been set, and the Penguins are once again the 4th seed and will play the Lightning in the first round. Washington and Vancouver are the #1 seeds, and last year's champion, the Chicago Blackhawks, snuck into the field in the last minute as the 8th seed. Tim, how are you expecting the battle for the Stanley Cup to play out?
Well, first, the Penguins are playing fantastic. I know, that's what everybody cares about. That's what I care about the most. I'm a Penguins fan. This is the Pittsburgh area. So the Penguins are playing fantastic without their stars, and that's what we've talked about the past few weeks. If Crosby comes back, possibilities of that, how they're playing right now. They've been playing fantastic. They closed out the season. They tied the most points they have in a season in history with 1992-1993 season with I think 106 points is their total this year. They ended up being a 4 seed. They were right there in the mix of things late. They could have got a couple more wins. A couple teams could have lost. They could be higher, 1-2 seed. But I like them coming out of the 4th seed. Not too many people outside of Pittsburgh are really focusing on them just because Crosby's not there, and not a lot of people are expecting them to really play fantastic. They're just expecting them to get through this first round, not go too deep. But I really think the Penguins have the team and they have the chemistry going on right now to make a cup run. I'm not going to pick them though to win the Stanley Cup just because I can't do that. I'm going to go with a bit of a sleeper pick coming out of the East. I'm going to go with Boston. Yeah, I'm going with Boston out of the East, and I'm going with Detroit coming out of the West. I'm going with 2 sleeper teams because that's how it's been. Last year, that's what it was. Nobody really expected Chicago and Philly to come out of there. They were contenders, but they were just kind of right there on that level where you weren't really sure if they were going to be able to come out of there. One thing I'd like to look at for people to look at is Vancouver against Chicago in that first round matchup. I mean, Vancouver's been the best team in the league all year, but Chicago's the defending champs, and they can get on a streak and win a couple games against you. So I think Vancouver will win that series, but I think it's going to be a tough series.
Okay, well, as for the Penguins, let's just start there. Everyone's talking about, they have the best defense in the league. Statistically, I'm not sure, but in terms of players, it's not the top defense in the league. If they're playing well, Fleury plays well. He always plays well this time of year. He's what got them to the last 2 Stanley Cup Finals. He won them the second time they got there. He's the reason they won. But 2 things that stick out well, really 3, not counting Sidney Crosby. He'd be the 3rd one. I don't think we're going to see him. As I elaborated, I think it was last week before the show got cut off due to technical problems. Ray Shero hasn't really hasn't really even committed as to a time for when Crosby's going to come back. So we really don't know. Are they going to have him at all? And that's their captain. If they're going to win Stanley Cup, that's who they need. I'm not worried about Malkin, but you need your captain to come back. You got the best player in the world, and there's people. If you listen to the radio, well, how are they going to make room for him? Those people are brain dead too. How do you not make a spot in your team for the best player in the world? I have no idea. But usually, especially when the Penguins make their runs, when Ray Shero makes a trade, everything he touches turns to gold. He's like King Midas. Remember the Marian Hossa trade? He turned it up in the playoffs. Hal Gill was arguably their 2nd best defenseman for the time he spent here. James Neal and Alexei Kovalev both have three goals between them. Kovalev has 2. James Neal has 1. I mean, he's good in shootouts, but there's no shootouts in the playoffs, so that's not gonna matter at all. So it's gonna hinge a lot on whether those 2 can play well in regulation. But as for how everything's going to play out, I like Tim's pick in the West. Detroit, they're the most experienced team in all of hockey right now. They've been everywhere. But everyone's low on the top seed Washington. Ovechkin's having a bum year. They've been upset about things. They're a real emotional bunch. I like Washington to come out of the East. A lot of people can hate me for it, but given my track record picking hockey, I've been right a lot of times.
I like your picks too. I'm actually going to go with that, the Caps and Detroit, simply just because, as you said, Ovechkin, and they're a team right now that there wasn't a lot of clout about them, but it was really interesting to see earlier whenever the Winter Classic was being played. That was one of the biggest events in sports at that time. Well, obviously, we weren't shooting, we were on break, but it was one of the biggest events at the time because, it was 2 teams that were in contention and possibly could eventually be the Stanley Cup champions, but I'd like to talk. Okay, I guess we're out of time.
There was a lot leading up to that with the HBO thing. How would you like to see a Pittsburgh-Washington Eastern Conference Final?
Yeah.
Now let's talk about Slippery Rock baseball. Last Sunday, sophomore pitcher Joby Lapkowitz threw a no-hitter against Clarion. It was the first no-hitter in SRU history since 2003. The Rock is 11-3 in its last 14 games and 19-11 on the season. Is there a chance that the green and white will be able to make the playoffs? Go ahead and start this one. Tim, you can start this.
All right. Well, I think that it was a fantastic performance. Throwing a no-hitter on any level is very impressive by Joby Lapkowitz, and just this team starting to get back going. They've won 4 of their last 5 games, and in their past 14, as we said, they're 11-3 right now. They're getting on a streak, and this is after them kind of falling apart a little bit earlier in the season. They started off fantastic, won their first 5-6 games, and then all of a sudden they went into a slump there for a while. I think if they can stay back on track, win about, I'd say, 75% of their remaining games, they'll be in a good situation to make the playoffs and be a contender. But it's going to come down to how they finish the season out now. As you talked about a lot, every time we talk about baseball, that's one thing. It's a streaky season. This is a lot shorter than the MLB season, but there's still streaks that go on with baseball. Playing so many doubleheaders, so many games going on, so you never know really what's going to go on with that. So if they can stay on this hot streak throughout the remainder of the season, I think they'll be in perfect position. But we really don't know how it's going to play out with their ups and downs they've had so far.
And he was throwing it. I was actually announcing that game too on Sunday. He was throwing a gem. He was throwing perfect. He only had 1 hit, and the hit was questionable. They marked it as a hit, but he was pitching a gem then. He's on a roll, and I think he's their ace. Not coming into the season, I believe George A. Bear was, their number 1. But they're getting a lot of great contributions from a lot of young pitchers. Lou Trevino's another one that's been carrying the load for them. And as you said, the season's a bit more compact than a MLB season, not 162 games. But in terms of them being able to advance and stay within playoff contention, I think they're going to have to continue on this roll with their pitchers, not more, more or less their bats also.
It's been a season of like 3 segments for this baseball team. At the beginning, we started out with high expectation. They started out 6-0, and they lost the next 7, and we kind of questioned whether the expectations were deserved for this team. Now they're coming down the stretch in the year. They're heating things back up again. It seems like they've got the perfect mix of youth and experience on this team. Like as Zach mentioned, Lou Trevino, I think he's a freshman phenom that's coming in.
Yeah.
He's throwing fireballs. You still got guys like Adam Howard, Adam Jury in the core of that lineup. But we still can't, based on how they started out hot and then they fell off the face of the earth for a week or two, it's going to be hard to judge going on how effective this team can be, though.
Yeah, this team, like when we talked a couple weeks ago about them being, right before the season started, they were ranked second, ranked to finish second in the PSAC, and they definitely have the talent on this team that they should be able to finish second. But we've just seen too many ups and downs lately that they really haven't been able we haven't been able to believe in them from what they've done. There's been too much up and down play, and everybody's coming together. And I mean, Lapkowitz, he's a sophomore pitching lights out right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's good for the future. Definitely, if this year isn't their year, it's definitely something to look forward to the future. But I think they're still in it if they can play consistent. If they play like they're playing right now, like they played at the beginning of the year, if that was just kind of like a outlier, that little slump that they had, and they're not going to go back to that, well, I think they'll be fine to make a playoff run, get into the playoffs, and just be consistent. That's what they need to do for the rest of the season.
You got to look at this no-hitter. Look how rare it is. That's usually not something that happens every day in conference Division II baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, it's usually something like if Texas or Rice is playing, Edinburgh. That happens more consistently, but truly historic.
Yeah, it was great, and as I said on Sunday, he was pitching a gem, and for this team, it's what it's going to come down to. Ultimately, it's going to be pitching, because as you mentioned, Matt Howard, Jury, and the guys hitting 7, 8, 9, DeRusha, all those guys are bringing their bats every game, and a lot of it's just going to be pitching. They're young, so if this isn't quite their year, as you said, there's a lot, 3 more years left of just solid pitching, lights out pitching, and there's bats, so they'll be fine.
Definitely a lot of build-up for the future, if anything.
Mesher should be excited, definitely.
Now for our final topic of the night, Major League Baseball is a few weeks into the season, and teams like the Red Sox, who were picked to be the favorite, have struggled early, while the Indians have won 7 straight games. Are these trends going to stick around, or do you think that these teams are going to start living up to their expectations? Bill, you can start.
I think it's obvious. Yeah, there's 162 games to go. Well, in the season, not to go. We're 10 games in already, so 152 more to go. But I mean, the Red Sox, they're 2-7. Really, with as much money as they spend, you really think they're going to finish below 500 and not compete in the AL East? No, you're nuts if you think. But people like me, we can enjoy that for right now. The Pirates have a better record than the freely spending Theo Epstein Red Sox. I'm loving it, but come the middle of June when the Pirates and teams like the Indians fall back to earth and lose 18 or 20, teams, it's going to be, as it always is, Yankees, Red Sox, Angels, Braves, Phillies. I forgot about the Phillies. Their pitching is going to carry them anyways. So just like I think it was last week again before we got cut off, I took a look at the baseball predictions, and ESPN, the experts, all it's Red Sox, Phillies, Red Sox, Phillies, Red Sox, Phillies. 90% of it was that. They just alternated their winner of the World Series. And ultimately, this is why baseball stinks and is in trouble nowadays, because that's what it's going to be.
Well, as you said, there's definitely a lot of time left. And there's a season's a tale of two tapes. There's the first half of the season, the second half of the season. And you can get, as long as you're, I guess, if you're 10 games under 500, you have no worries the second half of the season because you can turn it on. And other teams, as you said, get tired. They're on an 11-game losing streak, and they just don't want to play. And they have a 3-game set against the Red Sox, so the Red Sox sweep that, and they're catching up. So, yeah, they're definitely not in trouble. And as far as that goes, I really don't know because, as you said, everyone's just on cloud 9 right now. The most small market teams are up in front of the usual division leaders, so it's like, the usual suspects will be back around come playoff time.
Ran into a very hot Texas Rangers team. Yeah. I think have like 15, 16 home runs already. So.
Yeah, the Red Sox start off, they start off with the 2 road series before they came home to play the Yankees. They took 2 out of 3 against the Yankees, so they're already starting to pull back on track a little bit right there. Just with that, here's how I look at baseball. I look at it in like 8 segments. 8 20-game segments is how you look at it, because if you can do good, if you can win about 70% of your games in each of those segments, we're going to be fantastic. And even if you have 1 or 2 bad ones, so in 6 out of the 8, if you win 70% of the games, you're going to finish pretty good off. So the Red Sox, they go through these first 20 games, go 7-13, something like that. They'll still be on par if they can get the next few segments to turn around the other way and get headed back in the right direction. And then, like, talking about a team like the Indians. One of my close friends is actually a huge Indians fan, and he's on cloud 9, like you guys said right now, like Pirates fans are too. And that's something good. That keeps people interested in baseball, because that's what baseball really is these days. As I made the claim before, it's your team. Nobody really watches baseball just to watch games. That's few and far between these days. People watch for their team. I watch for the Red Sox. I watch a game here and there if I'm with some friends. Maybe my friend's team's on, like the Indians are on. We'll watch a little bit of a game or something like that. But see, that's just where the state of baseball is right now. And to answer the question, both these teams will head back in the right direction. I think the Indians will slide off decline. They might finish over 500 and have a decent season. I think the Red Sox will turn it back around and be a contender to make the playoffs and make a run toward the World Series this year.
Yeah, I'm not worried. As I said in my before you started, the usual suspects will be around come playoff time, so there's no worries there. It's just how bad is your team going to finish, Not yours, I'm saying in terms of Pirates fans like I am. How bad is it going to be, the trades? I'm always heartbroken come around that time.
Pirates should be above the Astros. I think there's a lot of scouts that came out and said last week they think they're better than Houston and they should finish. But yay, 5th place in the Central.
Well, as
progress.
Well, yeah, and as you were saying too about the ESPN picks, I mean that's all you really see is okay.
Like, I think a few of them would say, all right, I'm gonna go against logic and at least make it interesting.
Well, I mean what hurts them in terms of baseball ratings?
It's not baseball tonight on ESPN anymore. It's Yankees, Sox.
Yes, exactly.
Braves,
yeah, and it's like Wednesday. Okay, we're gonna tune in. It's gonna be the Red Sox this week, Yankees next week. Twins, Red
Phillies.
Sox, Yankees. It's like you don't get the small market teams involved. Therefore, your fan base slowly.
You can't blame any of us for
you can't. Yeah, it's just terrible. But whatever. Bill.
Actually, Tim, you ended up winning. You had 22, Bill, you had 21, and Zach, you had 20. So, go ahead.
All right. Well, we were talking before the show, and Bill said he had a fantastic FaceTime planned
Couldn't
for
pass
it.
it up.
So, I was really thinking about just keeping this one for myself, but I'm going to pass the FaceTime to Bill.
All right. I'm sure everyone's heard about this by now. I was fortunate enough to get a free ticket to the Pirate game on Saturday. It was about in the 6th inning. I think Jose Veras is pitching. And I'm behind home plate upstairs, keep in mind. I look out the left field. There's all kinds of people shuffling around, running. Then you hear chants of USA, USA, and this is after like the wave went around the stadium. And I think, what the hell is going on? So I went to Twitter. I said, "What's going on in left field?" Apparently, someone got tased. Well, until yesterday morning, Sunday morning, you find the video of this dude who was supposedly escorted out, tries to high-five a fan. Some macho PNC Park usher has to escalate the situation by blocking the high-five. So this guy in this USA jacket and jean shorts, who's a combination of Chris Oak from the Steelers and Stone Cold Steve Austin, has to nut macho PNC Park employee out of the way. So, and Pittsburgh police are on the scene. They tase this guy and they start beating him with bobby sticks. I mean, and the people are still chanting USA, USA. Even they're chanting USA to the "Let's Go Bucks" sound in the background of the stadium. If you watch the video, go to my site. It's on there, PittsburghSportsOnTap.com. I've got 1,000 hits just because of this dude acting like an idiot. But the sad thing is, he's a hero because of this stupid jacket, and he wouldn't go down when he got tased or beat. It's like the Terminator. And the sad thing is, he's a future millionaire. That's all.
All right, congrats, Bill. Well, Tim, congrats and good job, Bill.
Great story.
Good
job on my
Hey,
story.
Zach, good job.
How did you come into the
Good
ticket,
job.
by the way?
A buddy of mine ran the 5K down in Pittsburgh
Oh, that's awesome.
Friday. So. Oh, maybe it was Saturday morning. And he got tickets to sell that. Free
Yeah,
vouchers
it
for
was-
that night or Sunday afternoon.
It was on Saturday.
That's nice.
All right, congrats to you all again. Thanks for watching Slippery Rock Sports Forum. Have a good night, everyone.
Give me an extra point.
Not sure went well.
Yeah, you couldn't give me the win.
Yeah.
Had to have him
No.
win.
Down.